Hello and welcome to 10 Minute Takes. This is where we give you the rating first and then we discuss what we liked and didn't like about what we just watched. Today is Amazon Prime's Jack Ryan series. So you ready to rate this one?
What's the rating system again?
So the rating system for the show is loved it, liked it, didn't like it. We're doing it for streaming because it's streaming. So anyone, you don't have to pay to watch this. If you have Amazon Prime, you can just watch it. So we're just gonna let you know if we loved it, liked it, or didn't like it.
Great.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Liked it.
It's okay. It's a good start. For me, this show was at its best when it was dealing with the themes of love, betrayal, duty, and then also asking the questions of, is it okay to operate in the morally gray area that sometimes the military needs to operate in to catch the bad guys, such as in working with other bad guys to help catch other bad guys. The show, when it's at its worst, for me, at least, was when it is focusing on subplots and characters that have absolutely nothing to do with the main plot, and they're strictly there just to add a commentary to the current state of the war, the kind of war that we engage in today. Now, with that said, let's begin with the things that we like. So, Sam, what is something that you liked about Jack Ryan, or some of the things you liked about Jack Ryan?
I really enjoyed when we got halfway through the series. Mm-hmm. There was kind of a halfway point where that's when I really started getting engaged with the show. During the 4th episode, when the woman's character really started to come into play with their children, and they had to get away. She was trying to get away from her home, and there was a lot of drama that was happening. And her side story, well, hers isn't a side story. Her storyline was very compelling, and that's when I really started getting into the Jack Ryan. Just everything about Jack Ryan, I really started to enjoy more. But there was a halfway point where that's when I really started to like it. It took me a few episodes.
And the woman you're talking about is the wife of the terrorist character.
Right.
If you've seen any of the trailers, it's the storyline that's presented in the trailers. The wife goes running, and she's trying to get across or out of their area and into, onto American soil for protection. And
she's just trying to get away. I don't think it was necessarily American soil. She's just trying to get away.
Yeah. And so that was part of the series to me that dealt with sort of love and betrayal. Mm-hmm. And the themes really play from the terrorist side of the show, outside of the actual main storyline of like the CIA after this guy.
Right.
Because a lot of the more dynamic aspects of the show, as far as like the emotional weight that it holds, all plays from the terrorist aspect, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. Like even the terrorist himself, the main leader, he was someone who lived in a village whose village was bombed when he was a kid. He saved his younger brother.
You start to see why he became the person that he is. Mm-hmm. And not that you like him more, but you start to understand his story.
Yeah.
And though his goal isn't kind, it's still, you got that backstory that you kind of needed and that you don't normally get when you're talking about a terrorist. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed his wife's, anytime she was on the screen, the actress who played her, do you know who she is?
No.
She was phenomenal. You could really feel for her and feel what she was going through, and it was something that I really liked to watch because it was so dramatic and so great.
Yeah. The wife storyline to me was the best part of the series because it was the most emotionally investing part. The terrorist angle it's different because they didn't portray them. Yes, they're radicals, and yes, they want to create chaos, but they showed you the reasoning behind why they became who they were. The main terrorist guy was actually someone who's tried to get like a regular job in France. It's just because of who he was looked down upon and pretty much just discarded. And that just drove him to terrorist activities, eventually drove him to terrorist activities on top of the bombings that his village had when he was a little kid.
Yeah. It just, you know him as a whole person. You understand his background, his childhood, and then the man that he grew up in, who he grew up to be, and he didn't strive to be that. He became that.
Yeah.
You know, so I really liked that portion of Jack Ryan. Now, Jack Ryan's character, I really liked Jack Ryan's character, but I wasn't as invested as him as I felt like I should have been for a show that was mainly about him.
John Krasinski was actually really, really good as Jack Ryan. I actually feel like since Harrison Ford, he's the best Jack Ryan, or at least the best actor for Jack Ryan that we've had since Harrison Ford. The character itself could have been more interesting. I want to get into the things of why I thought he was uninteresting at times. But I agree with you. The show took a little while to get going. I really got invested around the 4th episode. From the 4th episode on, it was super gripping. The rest of it I actually thought was kind of uninteresting, and I think that we're not going to go into the things that we disliked about the show. And my issue with the show is that, like you mentioned, Jack Ryan didn't feel like he was that interesting of a character. The reason why Jack Ryan didn't feel like an interesting character is because Jack Ryan himself has no conflict. Never once does he ever have an inner conflict with himself, wondering if he's doing the right thing, because Jack Ryan in his head, every single beat of the way in this story, believes he is doing the right thing. Every time. There's never once...
But isn't that like the Jack Ryan persona? Isn't that how it's always been?
I don't really care what the persona is. If that's the character, then the character's uninteresting. Okay. And I believe they should take opportunities to make his character more interesting. So, for instance, the episode when they're in, I believe it's like one of the last times they go to Yemen, they're hunting the wife, and they're working with another, not a terrorist, but they're working with another Arab man to find the wife. And Jack Ryan is on the one side of it. It's like, this is wrong, we shouldn't be doing this. And not once through that process does he ever question maybe this is the right way to do it.
Okay, I follow you then. I mean, I'm not as familiar with the whole Jack Ryan series. I've never read a book. I've never,
I've only seen a couple of the Harrison Ford movies. I think Patriot Games.
Right. So I never had followed his character. So this is my first interaction with Jack Ryan, and that's just how I perceived him to be, as somebody who is very, almost cocky.
Yeah, he was
very cocky, and that's fine as a character when it's done well. Like, I don't mind seeing a character who's cocky and who knows what he's doing, and he knows how to do this. He's confident in what he's doing. Like, that's not a bad thing to have in war.
He almost has need to have confidence. Almost like a Captain Kirk from like the new Star Trek movies kind of vibe, where he's very cocky, very sure of himself. He doesn't mind going over the head of his superiors to try and get his way with certain objectives.
I can see that.
Just the only thing is that he never has his comeuppance. He never has a moment where his decisions ever come to bite him. I was talking with someone at work about this. They feel like he was almost like the Mary Sue version of a male character in these stories. A Mary Sue is a female character in a film that is essentially perfect. They never do any wrong. So some people consider like Rey in the new Star Wars movies, they Mary Sue. Someone who's never been trained on a lightsaber, but she can have a lightsaber duel with someone who's a borderline Sith master.
Oh, yeah, I guess that doesn't really make sense now that I think about it.
So Jack Ryan is kind of that character in this series right now, whereas every decision he makes is the right decision. He almost never makes a wrong turn.
Right.
And to me, that was a little bit of an issue with a shorter. It's an 8-episode series.
It felt almost too short. And I think that's why I like TV shows that are a little bit longer. But it seems like nowadays our seasons are getting shorter and shorter, especially with the streaming binging era, I guess. And I just felt like it was too short. I felt like it could have added a couple of episodes almost, because the ending was so well. The last 4 episodes was so well. I think you could have stretched that into maybe a 10 season or 10 episodes.
Yeah, the other thing is that it was 8 episodes. I just want to address this real quick. There's an episode that has something to do with nothing of the main storyline, and it's the drone pilot subplot. Has absolutely nothing to do with the main plot, never ties into it, never crosses paths with any of the terrorists.
Yes, he does. She's the one that saves the wife.
Yeah, but you didn't need the whole episode dedicated to him.
Okay. Fine.
I mean, there's literally, he goes over weird. 2 or 3 episodes.
That's true. Okay.
If there is a second season of Jack Ryan, I will watch it.
Yeah, I will too. Well, I guess I have
And-
no choice. I live with you.
So I will go ahead. So I will watch a second season if they do a second season. I'm sure they will.
I think.
But it's not highly anticipated. I'm not looking at it like I am like Stranger Things season 3
When is that coming out?
next year,
Oh.
like next summer.
Blah.
So, anyways, all right. That's it for this episode of 10 Minute Takes. This was for Amazon Prime's Jack Ryan, obviously. Stay tuned, continue watching, like, and subscribe. We have The Nun next. So stay tuned for that. That's coming up. Thanks for watching.